This workshop today is part of the March With Us campaign, which is a multilingual campaign that Forus and its members have been doing for the whole month of March, in which we highlight the stories of activists or of civil society organizations and Forus members who work on gender justice and on the intersection of gender and youth. And so let's start just to show you the panel and all the speakers that will be sharing their experiences with us today. So we have from the Youth Forum, from NFN Nepal, from InspirACCIÓN, our friends in Peru, from Coordination Sud, Akina Mamawa Africa as well is here today, as well as Rose from Women Engage. So just to give you a small introduction about Bhawana, she's an amazing youth leader from Nepal and a women leader as well. And she's also part of Forus member NFN. And today she will be a bit navigating through the context, the national context in Nepal, and let us know about some of the activities that they have been doing to include the youth into the picture. So Bhawana, if you're okay. I don't know if you also have slides. In that case, we are going to make you co-host as well.
No, I have some notes, but I can just speak. It's just 5 minutes, so it's okay.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Namaste. My name is Bhawana Bhatta. I'm human rights lawyer and social activist. Thank you, first of all, Vivi and then the Forus for this opportunity to be connected with you all, especially from women and the youth from the globe. I'm delighted to be here today. I'm just talking about youth issues and women issues in Nepal because I have been working in the field for over 2 decades. And actually, I worked for young people as an activist for 15 years, then policymaker for 4 years because I appointed by Ministry of Youth and Sports as an executive member for National Youth Council in 2016. Myself, I am from conflict-affected area. It was the then Midwestern part of Nepal. At that time, when I was started working as a youth activist, there was no policies at the place. There was no institutions which were looking for youth. That's why we started forming by youth organizations. And then we have went to the road for many times for the demonstrations, and we also had a policy level dialogue and lots of advocacy work, capacity building program, policy advocacy, like parallelly we have done the research work also we did. That's why finally now we have National Youth Council in Nepal, which is formed in 2016, and I also became a founder member for that. That is one of the success events that I would like to share with you. And as being a law student, I tried my best being a founder executive committee member to formulate policies for youth, to formulate directive, and then some programs which can be led by the National Planning Commission. That in that way, some program level recommendations, some of the policy interventions we have done in my tenure. That's why we are also awarded by World Social Council, which is Voice of Future Generation, under the Voice of Future Generation, the Future Policy Award ceremony in 2019, which was celebrated the world most impactful policies empowering youth. Our Right Honorable Speaker from Upper House was there to receive the award, which means that if we have policies which are youth-friendly, if there are institutions who are working for youth, then the global team also respect and then award. So that's why our country was awarded as being a very friendly youth policies and programs that National Youth Council has made, and the constitution itself is very youth friendly. Even though if we see the implementation, but there are lots of challenges. But whenever we see the policy, the institutions, which are quite good in this moment. If we talk about the issues of young people, there are five priorities areas. that Nepal government has designed, which we also were the part of the team. Like number 1 is quality and vocational educations. Number 2 is employment, entrepreneurship, and skill development. Number 3 is health and social security issues. Number 4 is mobilizations, participations, and leadership development. And number 5 is sports and entertainment. These 5 categories are as a 5 pillars of Nepal priorities, which is under Youth Vision 2020-25, which is under the reviews. Now we are reviewing the Youth Vision 2025, like where we went, how long we have to go, like what could be the changes needed for the methodologies and program and other things. We have been reviewing from that perspective. And in my learning, working in the field of youth since long, first thing is that the major intervention we have to do for the policy formulations. If there is no policy, then it is not recognized. We cannot, make changes. Number 2, the institutional formulation is also important. Formation or reformation is needed. Previously, we didn't have any institution to work for youth, but there is Ministry of Youth and Sports in the federal, there is National Youth Council in the federal, there are provincial youth councils, and local level also some municipalities are forming the national municipal level council. Means there are 3 tiers of government, and all tiers they are respecting youth for allocating budget, for having some institutions, having some group, or committee under their structure. They are having dialogue with youth. Sometimes these days the dialogue between youth and policymaker is enhancing. The priorities from development partner is also enhancing, and the program and service delivery quality is also upgrading because of youth participations. And inclusive, meaningful participation is needed. For that, we have to have we have to work as a partner and also the pressure group, whether the participation is meaningful, whether the participation is inclusive in terms of gender, in terms of religion, in terms of caste, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of age also. Even if we talk about youth, there are huge gap between youth group from 16 to 40. So we have to also talk about the age of young people and then other generations. So as we are having first dialogue in March, the theme of this month is digital. So I would like to a little bit toss, because the theme of the March 8 is digital innovation and technology for gender equality. So I would like to a little bit toss on the issues that what we can do for making enabling environment for youth, for the availability of SCT and other things. So for me, accessibility is main thing in the digital age, because young people, they use gadgets lots, but they don't know how to use it, how to maximize the benefits. So the accessibility with availability of ICT knowledge, device use, knowledge of device use, and the quality of internet is major thing. Number 1, access. Number 2, digital literacy is important for young people in this context. Under the digital literacy, content should be gender friendly or youth friendly, and cyber security is important. And they also have to know that the fake news, disinformation, misinformation, internet governance comes under the digital literacy. Next one is advocacy, where laws and policies are important. In the case of Nepal, we have Information Technology Act 2008 and the Electronic Transaction Act 2008, which are quite old. And after that, from 2008 to now, there are lots of revolution on digital is happening in Nepal, and especially in South Asia. So the ongoing act cannot control and facilitate So we need to review on the Information Technology Act and the Electronic Transaction Act. Advocacy is also needed there. And then institutions in the context of Nepal, there is only Cyber Bureau is performing only in federal level. So we are having dialogue on decentralizing its services up to district level, because lots of cases which are related gender-based violence using like digital means, but the case are just handling by Cyber Bureau in federal level. So we are also having dialogue to have to decentralize the institutional capacity of Cyber Bureau up to grassroots level. And I think if you use the digital like gadget and lots of internet access, we definitely make the differences in a very equitable way. So let's invest on youth for better future. There are lots of issues that we can work on young people, for young people, on young people, but we have to be united, because young peoples are the like major group, major catalyst, major change maker of the world. So, and about 60% of youth population, they are from Asia Pacific. So yeah, I just would like to conclude here. It's very short, but I just would like to say that we have to work on policy making, institutional formulations, advocacy, and knowledge building together. If we do in that way, then we definitely can make changes. Thank you so much.
I think, Karolina, if you are fixed, I think here your issue with the slides, you can go next, and then it will be for Andy.
So thanks for having me. I'm Karolina, and I work as a digital communication strategist for the European Youth Forum. So I don't work directly on a specific campaign, but for the communications for the whole organization. So today I would like to talk about that and maybe share some good practices and tips that we can all use in our communications. So just briefly to introduce the European Youth Forum. So we are the largest network of youth organizations in Europe, as Bibi said before, and we have our over 105 member organizations coming across Europe. It's mostly European Union states, but we also have members from Balkans, Western Balkans, and Ukraine. And our members are national youth councils, but also international youth organizations that are across more borders. And what we do is that we are the voice of young people towards decision makers. So we work mostly with the EU institutions, the Parliament, Commission, the Council, but also the Council of Europe, the UN and governments. And what we do is that we bring young people to them and make sure that they hear their voices and then they reflect them in their policy making. How we do that is that we do advocacy, which is often could be with the decision makers just one-on-one or with the meetings, but we also do broader campaigns. We arrange different meetings for young people with decision makers. So we do youth dialogues. We have a different schemes on conferences that they can actually meet. And when we make sure that the young people are in the room as well. We also do capacity building for our member organizations, so provide them with similar trainings, workshops, and opportunities. And we also empower young people to be active, to take an active part in the society and to care about creating some positive change. So overall, I would say we're trying to improve life of young people in Europe by doing all these things. When we're speaking about communications and how to involve young people in communications and campaigns, I would like to introduce our handbook, which is called Advocacy Handbook. It's a very handy handbook that you can download for free from our website. And there you can see how to plan an advocacy campaign step by step. And so here are the steps that you can find there, but as you probably all know, it starts with defining your vision and your goals. So what is it that you want to change in the society? So you define the problem and then you find a solution. That's the next step. Then normally we do research to back up our campaign with the facts and data. Then we map the ecosystem, so you find out who are your stakeholders, who are your allies or competitors. Then you craft your message. So what is it that you want to put out there? You decide on the tone, on the framing, what story you want to tell. Once you have the message, then you actually get the message out there through different channels, which you can also choose which channels you want that suits best your audience. Once the message is out there, you build and engage and activate the people. You give them the call to action. What is it that you should do? They should do. Then you plan your actions. If you have different demonstrations or stands or events, you create this timeline for it. And then throughout the whole campaign, you monitor and evaluate. So you measure the data and you see what is working well and what is not. And then you upgrade your own skills after finishing the campaign. So this and more you can find in the advocacy handbook. I can share it later with all of you. It's very useful. So at the core of every advocacy that we do lies communication, because advocacy is built around communication-centered actions. So you want to influence some change and influence a policy through this communication actions. So here's an example of our campaign, which is called "Can You Afford to Work for Free?" And it's about unpaid work and unpaid internships in Europe, which is a problem for young people because often they finish their studies and they need to find a job and they end up with an unpaid internships. And this is what is concerning them. So we identified as an issue, and we are currently leading a campaign to ban unpaid internships and to make sure that every intern and every young person in Europe has a remuneration. So I will then come back to this campaign with some more examples. And then when we go back to this process, so how we continue with planning the campaign is that we need to know who we are speaking for, and we are speaking for young people. So we make sure that we involve them from the very beginning of planning of our campaign. And how to do that is that you can do research, you can do interviews with them to make sure that you know what are you saying on their behalf. And here next, yeah, my name is, I will pause it, is a video from our campaign that I was mentioning before to ban unpaid internships. So before we kicked up the campaign, we were talking to young people who did unpaid internships, which for us was sort of a research to understand what is the issue. But then we recorded the interviews and used them as this video content. So I don't think I will play the video now, but you will find it in the presentation, so we didn't spend too much time on it. Then how we involved young people besides the interviews and storytelling is that we did a research that was more on the data, like scientific research, which is called the cost of unpaid internships. And there we identified how much it actually cost for young people to do an unpaid internships. And as you can see on the left, that's the research paper with all the data. And on the right, we created content from it. So at first with the video, we used storytelling and getting people interviews and their stories to make videos. And here we used more quantitative data and using this research as a base for our content that we were sharing in the campaign. So that's how you involve people that you are speaking on their behalf to make sure that you know what are you communicating for them. And then the other question is, who are you speaking with? So we often talk to politicians, but also young people. And sometimes we do the mistake that we try to bring the same message to both of these different audiences. So it's important to realize that we don't talk to an activist the same way as we talk to a politician. So you always need to adapt the message and the tone of voice to fit the audience. So after you have the research, you have the message, you go to channels. So what works the best for us is doing integrated campaigns, which means that you integrate together more tools. that are here. So you can integrate emails, blogs, newsletter, PR, events, podcasts, social media, all the different channels together. And then you can put the messages through different channels to reach different audiences. That's the best way that works for us when doing advocacy campaigns. And then the other question is which content to choose, which is kind of the same question. So if you want to do videos, if you want to do live events, interviews, press releases. So you always have to think about who is the target audience and then choose the best channel and the best content for them. So here, again, back to our campaign, we did a petition. So we have different articles, videos, as you saw, research, but now we have also a petition where people can sign to ban unpaid internships. So we are calling for legislative change that would ban this work. Our target is to get to 10,000 signatures. Now we have over 5,700. So also feel free to share, to sign later. I will share you the link. And this way it works well because we are giving people a very simple tool, like here's the petition, sign it. So that works very well. Then you can speak about social media. Again, it goes back, it will support your campaign. It goes back to the questions, which channel you want to use, because you reach different people on Twitter, then you reach different people on Instagram. Instagram is more for young people, whether on Twitter there is more decision makers. So this you will see also in our advocacy handbook. And here are just some tips on how to engage in social media. So make sure that you know that it's a two-way engagement platform, so it works as a conversation. So when you bring your campaign to social media, make it a conversational, not just throwing it out there, but ask questions the people who are consuming it and engage with them. Often we see the mistake with the videos or posts on social media that they're very short, very long, but we want to do the opposite, to keep them short. As you can see, there is ideal characters limit, and this way it's easier for the audience to communicate the message. It's also very good to use simple language, especially when we're talking about policy issues and social impact changes. Sometimes we use words that are maybe good for politicians, but maybe young people wouldn't understand them. So it's always good to simplify the language. And the last thing I would like to say is the role of analytics in all the campaign. If you're using social media or email marketing, it's always good to look at your data and to understand what works the best for you. You understand what time is your audience online. You will understand what are your competitors. Here are some tools. Most of them are for free as well. So you can track your advocacy campaigns very well and see what works best for you. I guess I will stop here because I'm at 10 minutes over, so I don't want to steal more time, but hope it was helpful. That's just how we do our communications. And yeah, I will share everything later, and thanks for your attention.
Thank you so much, Karolina, also for sharing a specific campaign. And I think that we have Anddy, who's gonna go next, and then we will open the floor to all the participants to ask their questions. I already see that there are some comments for you, Karolina, in the chat. And yeah, feel free to add your resources and links to the campaigns you were mentioning so that people can support it, of course. Y ahora, Andy, voy a compartir también aquí, desde aquí, la presentación, porque tienes un vídeo también. Entonces, Andy, puedes empezar si quieres y yo voy a empezar también con tu presentación. Gracias.
Gracias. Muy buenos días, y buenas tardes, buenas noches, dependiendo de dónde estén. Mi nombre es Anddy Landacay, estoy aquí en Lima, Perú. Bueno, el Perú es un país hermoso, pero también está lleno de contradicciones, ¿no? Entonces, un poco para explicarles de dónde nace InspirACCIÓN, ¿no? Que es este grupo de voluntarios, ¿no? Yo vivo en San Juan del Lurigancho, que es un distrito en Lima, Perú, es un distrito que tiene más de 1 millón de habitantes, ¿no? Entonces, con todo lo que eso implica, ¿no? Implica por un lado potencialidades, pero por otro lado también dificultades y problemas, ¿no? Entonces, basado en esta premisa de entender cómo una población, o sea, San Juan de Lurigancho refleja muy bien lo que es el Perú, porque el Perú está basado de muchas culturas, en muchas lenguas, y está hecho basado en la migración, ¿no? San Juan de Lurigancho está basado en una población migrante. Entonces, esto genera una serie de problemas porque en los años 80 en Perú vivimos tiempos de violencia política, ¿no? Que derivó en muertos, en atentados y una serie de problemas que no hemos podido solucionar. Entonces, la gente que vive en este distrito sufre muchos estigmas. Es más, y la misma gente que vive en esta zona de Lima también tiene algunos prejuicios sobre sí mismo. Entonces, ¿qué buscamos con InspirACCIÓN? En esta zona de Lima, Perú, hay bastante riqueza arqueológica y hay bastante riqueza natural. El asunto es que muchas de las personas que viven en esta zona de Lima no conocen su propia riqueza. Entonces, hay una serie de iniciativas que se han presentado para que quienes viven en este lugar puedan sentirse identificados. Porque si uno no conoce el lugar donde vive, no está al tanto de las cosas que tiene en su propio suelo, por lo tanto no puede generar una identidad, una identificación. Entonces lo que buscamos desde InspirACCIÓN es eso. Viene el nombre mismo de este juego de palabras de inspirar y actuar. Entonces, todas nuestras campañas han estado dirigidas a dos cosas: generar pensamiento crítico, tener un enfoque artístico y por otro lado también generar ciudadanía, porque eso es lo que nos falta en Perú. Ahorita estamos viviendo una crisis muy fuerte con los desastres naturales. Estamos viviendo en todo el Perú una serie de consecuencias climatológicas, pero no tanto por la naturaleza, sino por el desdén o la desidia de nuestras autoridades. Y por otro lado, la crisis política que seguramente muchos han visto en las noticias, que ha derivado ya en más de 60 muertos, ¿no? En enfrentamientos, en protestas contra el régimen actual, ¿no? Entonces, todo esto parte de nosotros también de la idea de que tenemos que llevarle a la gente un mensaje crítico de nuestro entorno. Entonces, hemos hecho diferentes campañas motivadas precisamente por estos problemas, ¿no? Queremos que la gente genere una conciencia social. Entonces, dentro de las diferentes campañas que hemos hecho, vamos a mencionar esta última, que es el teatro que InspirACCIÓN, le hemos llamado. Entonces, lo que hacemos nosotros es llevar el teatro, que es un arte que cuestiona, que motiva, que hace que la gente piense, que reflexione, porque el arte es una herramienta poderosa. Entonces, a mí me encanta el teatro, por ejemplo, ¿no? Muchísimo. Así que, pero ir al teatro en el Perú, bueno, en otras partes también, es muy complicado, y sobre todo si vives en un cerro donde tienes que gastar dinero para poder bajar y tienes que movilizarte muy lejos para ir a lugares elitistas donde realmente las entradas son caras, te cuesta movilizarte. Nosotros tratamos de darle la oportunidad a gente que nunca ha disfrutado la experiencia teatral, por ejemplo, mujeres, niños, adolescentes, de que puedan vivir esta bonita experiencia del teatro y a la vez recibir un mensaje, porque esta obra que hemos hecho, que se llama Huérfanos de la Patria, un poco, repito para explicar el nombre, es Huérfanos de la Patria, se lo hemos puesto porque a los políticos en el Perú le llamamos padres de la patria. Entonces, hay una escena donde uno de los personajes dice: con estos padres de la patria yo prefiero ser huérfano, ¿no? Y a la vez da la idea de abandono, ¿no? De las autoridades que nos abandonan y que solamente van a estos lugares pobres, necesitados, cuando hay campañas políticas. Entonces, esta obra que hemos creado, que llevamos, es una obra itinerante, cuestiona esta realidad y es muy divertido porque la gente se identifica con los personajes, reflexiona, se involucran en la obra. Es una obra interactiva en la que la gente participa, y me gustaría, no sé si podemos mostrar el video, que dura chiquito nada más, para que más o menos se den una idea de a dónde llegamos con esto que hacemos, ¿no? Ahí podemos ver, es en la zona de San Juan de Lurigancho, ¿no? Están las protestas y demás. Nosotros somos autogestionarios, ¿sabes? Nosotros buscamos apoyo con nuestros propios recursos, contamos con un elenco de jóvenes del mismo distrito, y a la vez ahí está la rata, que es lo que representa, simboliza un poco el político promedio, ¿no? El político promedio. Ahí ven, estamos bien arriba, llegamos bien arriba de las zonas más alejadas en Lima, donde nunca llega, donde solo llegan los políticos en campaña y ahí se interactúa con niños, con las madres de las ollas comunes, ¿no? Y dejamos también algunos donativos para que el arte, por un lado, y también el apoyo social puedan integrarse y generar cambios, ¿no? Entonces, es una carrera solidaria, ¿no? Entonces, y ya que estamos hablando del rol de la mujer, por ejemplo, en estas zonas de Lima, en esta pandemia, quienes más han apoyado estas iniciativas son las mujeres, las madres de familias que se organizan en ollas comunes, es decir, que cocinan para varias familias en los cerros, en las zonas altas, y son ellas quienes nos han recibido y son ellas las que nos han invitado a participar, nos han invitado a decir, lleven esta obra a mi comunidad y yo quiero que esto genere reflexión en donde vivimos. Entonces, es un reconocimiento también a su trabajo, a su labor, que se involucran, es decir, se suele mirar con desdén, se suele mirar, ¿no?, con cierto desprecio a gente que vive en determinadas partes, ¿no? Así que esto es importante porque nos permite revalorar la riqueza, por un lado, arqueológica, la riqueza natural, pero también la riqueza de la gente, que es lo que nos interesa, revalorar la riqueza de la gente. Todas nuestras campañas han sido, hemos salido a las calles, hemos sembrado mensajes contra la violencia, en favor de la cultura, y en el camino mucha gente también se ha sumado espontáneamente, que ha sido una experiencia muy, muy bonita, ¿no? Muy nutritiva, ¿no? Entonces, eso es lo que hacemos. No ha sido continuo, porque nosotros estamos desde el 2016, este año estamos retomando, la pandemia también nos ha afectado obviamente, estamos retomando estas acciones y queremos llevar a más lugares esta obra teatral, estas obras que cuestionan y esta obra que involucra a nuestro entorno. Entonces, eso es lo que buscamos, ¿no? Hay chicos y chicas jóvenes que se siguen involucrando, por suerte, en este proyecto porque como no hay de por medio recursos, es una cosa absolutamente voluntaria. Buscamos inspirar y buscamos que la gente se sume cada vez más a este tipo de iniciativas, ¿no? No sé si me pasé el tiempo o tengo un minuto más, pero en líneas generales quería mostrarles esto. Hemos hecho una serie de cosas más, pero en concreto esto es lo más reciente y creo que es lo que más nos llena de satisfacción y nos motiva, porque somos bastante de corazón. InspirACCIÓN es eso, inspirar para hacer, ¿no? Eso es lo que buscamos. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Andy, y también para compartir el vídeo, las fotos y todas las iniciativas más creativas como el teatro. It was really very interesting, and I think that an inspiration also for activists and civil society organizations. I just want to remind to all the participants that we have simultaneous interpretation. On bénéficie d'une interprétation simultanée. Si vous avez des problèmes à accéder à l'interprétation, n'hésitez pas à nous écrire dans les chats. On va essayer de vous aider. Y si tienes problemas a acceder a la interpretación, los puedes poner en el chat y os podemos ayudar. So thank you once again to the amazing interpreters who are here in the call today. So now we have a couple of minutes for questions, for a debate. I don't know if anybody, before we pass to Anais, has any questions for our speakers, for Bhawana, Karolina, or Andy, or comments about your organization and what you're doing in terms of youth to begin with. So the floor is open. We can wait a couple of minutes. You can just raise your hand or directly unmute yourself. Voilà, c'est un petit moment pour les questions. Maintenant, si vous avez des questions, voilà, je vois Issam d'Espace Associatif. Issam, voilà, vous pouvez prendre la parole.
Bonjour tout le monde. Premièrement, excusez-moi parce que je suis dans un endroit plus ou moins public. Si vous entendrez un petit peu de bruit, je m'excuse par avance. Alors, je commence par le titre interpellé dans la présentation d'aujourd'hui qui s'intitule, je vais le citer, « Les femmes et les jeunes sont souvent sous-représentés dans les médias et les espaces de communication, ce qui peut limiter leur capacité à plaider pour le changement social. » Alors, j'ai commencé par cette thématique parce que qui me paraît très importante, parce que vu les expériences des pays par rapport aux campagnes de plaidoyer, de communication envers les jeunes, je pense qu'il est très important aussi de savoir les jeunes d'aujourd'hui. Qu'est-ce qu'ils veulent, les jeunes d'aujourd'hui? Parce qu'il y a un changement, à mon avis, colossal entre les jeunes d'hier et les jeunes d'aujourd'hui. À mon avis, il y a un changement au niveau aussi de structure ou bien de système structurel des jeunes. Parce que hier, on se trouve que les jeunes sont plus ou moins dans un sens de stabilité. Aujourd'hui, on trouve les jeunes dans la mobilité totale. Il y a, je cite quelques éléments comme l'autonomie, l'indépendance de liberté, mieux vivre l'avenir, ils veulent vivre l'avenir, la réalisation de soi. Il y a aussi l'intérêt personnel, il y a aussi liaison avec le passé. C'est très important de prendre ces composantes pour comprendre ce que veulent les jeunes et comme ça, on peut interagir entre les jeunes. Autrement dit, parce que au niveau de la représentation des jeunes, surtout dans les espaces de médias, les espaces aussi de socialisation, il est important aussi de citer le changement au niveau des jeunes, au niveau des générations des jeunes. Avant, comme vous savez, on a commencé par une génération entre les années 60 et 65 qui ont plus ou moins de l'après-guerre. Il y a un intérêt de chercher un travail. Après, on a trouvé les générations qu'ils ont citées, la génération X, où ils se trouvent devant le premier problème de la crise économique, donc il n'y a plus de travail. Et par la suite, on a trouvé la génération Y de 80 et 2000 qui ont plus ou moins de portables, de l'Internet, de digitalisation. Et par la suite, on a trouvé la génération Z qui est la génération de numérisation. J'ai cité cette génération parce que je trouve que le passage intergénérationnel, c'est très important de le citer. Surtout parce que si on voulait interagir et chercher l'impact ou bien la sociabilité des jeunes, on devrait chercher cette canal ou bien cette passerelle d'intergénérationnel entre les jeunes et aussi notre génération. Cela veut dire que aussi on devrait prendre en considération le changement de la mondialisation aujourd'hui, parce qu'il y a aussi une importance au niveau de la mondialisation, de la numérisation, de la digitalisation et la représentation des jeunes dans les réseaux sociaux, qui me paraît aussi une continuité et de la vie réelle, parce que maintenant on parle de la sociabilité, de la socialisation en ligne et comment trouver la représentation des jeunes en ligne, mais c'est très important aussi parce que ça peut être une forme de continuité de ce qu'ils font au niveau du réel. Et si on ouvre ce canal pour qu'on puisse l'évaluer par rapport à l'intérêt des jeunes, je trouve que, parce que les jeunes, ils sont maintenant switchés vers tout ce qui est numérique, donc je trouve très important d'ouvrir cet espace pour comprendre les jeunes et aussi pour interagir les jeunes et aussi pour bien intégrer les gens dans la sphère sociale. Merci.
Merci Sam et pour avoir partagé votre expérience et ces idées. I don't know if anybody would like to maybe respond to Issam or to share their own ideas from the speakers or from any of the participants here. If you want to jump in, we will just leave a couple of seconds. You can just let us know. Or if anybody has any additional comments or questions, si tienen otras ideas, otras preguntas for the first panel. We can leave a couple of minutes. I see Nana.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je m'excuse de prendre le débat en retard. Mais moi, j'ai une préoccupation, c'est au niveau des femmes rurales et des jeunes ruraux. Vu la pesanteur sociale au niveau de nos pays, et quel dispositif doit-on prendre pour faire entendre plus la voix des femmes et des jeunes? Et je suis de la FECONJ. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Nana. Je ne sais pas si peut-être déjà quelqu'un, même Eunice ou Anaïs ou même Rose, veulent répondre à Nana ou Andy, si quieres responder a la pregunta de Nana sobre el contexto.
No sé si puedo ahondar un poquito en esta experiencia con las dirigentes de los comedores populares. No sé si saben un poco, pero en Perú quiero ahondar, en muchas partes de Lima metropolitana se organizaron en ollas comunes, o sea, así se le llama, ¿no? mujeres que se encargan de alimentar a varias familias en simultáneo, en cocinar. Entonces, creo que una manera de responder un poco a la pregunta es con este proyecto que hemos estado trabajando, era un poco la duda inicial, ¿no? De como nosotros llevamos alguna ayuda material, ¿no? En alimentos y demás, creo que Vivi te comentaba eso también. Nuestra duda era si quería que llevemos esta obra de teatro por la ayuda material o la obra en sí misma, ¿no? Entonces, a nosotros fue una grata sorpresa que ellas nos dijeran, queremos realmente ser partícipes de esto, queremos involucrar a nuestra comunidad en este cambio mental, ¿no? En este cambio de realidad. Entonces, creo que una manera es acercarse, llegar hasta donde están ellas, no importa que esté súper alejado, no importa que tome tiempo, no importa que sea un trabajo de pronto más cansado, y este tipo de herramientas o estrategias les dan voz, les dan presencia, les dan imagen, ¿no? Entonces creo que ese es un punto muy importante, ¿no? Tratar de acercarse a ellas, acercarse a estas personas y poder darle la oportunidad de expresarse, ¿no? Nosotros también, por ejemplo, estamos trabajando en una propuesta de un programa por internet donde podamos darle voz precisamente a este tipo de iniciativas y a este tipo de experiencias, porque hay muchas heroínas anónimas que están todo el tiempo trabajando, haciendo cosas increíbles realmente por sus comunidades, pero lamentablemente los medios de comunicación, la televisión hegemónica en nuestros países no nos dan tribuna. O sea, solamente son noticias cuando hay algo negativo, es decir, cuando hay una muerte, cuando hay violencia, pero esas experiencias positivas nunca se retratan, nunca se muestran. Entonces creo que ese sería muy importante también como herramienta, darle visibilidad, que es lo que tratamos de hacer nosotros también en esta nueva etapa de lanzar una nueva propuesta de programa donde podamos mostrar estas experiencias y que el mundo conozca que hay mucha gente haciendo cosas todo el tiempo por sus comunidades. Eso nada más. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Andy. Y veo Sandra también, si quieres añadir algo. O si quieres, tienes preguntas para lo que están aquí hoy.
Hola, Vivi, ¿cómo están a todos? Buenos días, mis disculpas por haberme igual unido un poco tarde, pero escuchaba un comentario hace minutos antes, este tema del abordaje que los periodistas y medios de comunicación tienen, ¿no? Con referencia al tema de varias de las causas, o por ejemplo en el caso nuestro de visibilizar el trabajo de defensoras y de defensores de derechos. A nosotros nos ha funcionado mucho y muy bien aproximarnos mucho a los periodistas a partir o a través de un programa de fortalecimiento de capacidades periodísticas con enfoque de derechos humanos. Hemos hecho un taller con varios periodistas, pero además los hemos motivado porque en Bolivia el periodismo y los medios de comunicación están atravesando una crisis realmente complicada, muy difícil. Entonces es difícil que los periodistas puedan realizar periodismo de investigación, no les da el recurso. Y entonces nosotros hemos impulsado luego de estos talleres una suerte de concurso, digamos, para que puedan acceder a unos apoyos económicos para la realización de investigaciones periodísticas. Y bueno, eso nos ha favorecido en el sentido de que realmente han puesto en práctica todo lo que nosotros habíamos visto durante este tiempo, pero además también en que haya crecido en los periodistas, sobre todo independientes, el compromiso de mostrar, de exhibir, exponer la vulneración a las libertades y también exponer la falta de institucionalidad democrática, comprometerse con varias causas, y eso nos ha ayudado bastante para hacer inclusive alianzas con los mismos periodistas y medios, porque nosotros también hemos empezado a través de nuestro observatorio a exponer, a visibilizar el tema de la vulneración a la libertad de expresión y las veces que habían sido agredidos y atacados los periodistas. Entonces ha sido una suerte de alianza, de apoyo mutuo que ha habido de parte de los periodistas y UNITAS, que ha servido mucho para que también se abran canales para que luego los periodistas y los medios nos apoyen a visibilizar todas estas causas y estos bueno, también de denuncia, pero también ver el aporte del trabajo de los defensores y defensoras de derechos. Solo eso, comentarles como una experiencia bonita que hemos tenido aquí en Bolivia. Gracias, Vivi.
Gracias, Sandra, también para compartir la idea del observatorio, que es algo muy innovador, y también el medio independiente que tiene Sumando Voces, que creo que es súper interesante para todos y todas hoy. So we don't have so much more time left for this panel. But please also feel free, to continue asking questions or giving your comments during the second panel as well. So we will again share here the screen and present you to another colleague of ours, which is Anaïs Tamani, who is the Support and Reinforcement Officer at Coordination Sud, which is Forus member in France. And she currently supports French international solidarity associations in capacity development through their project FRIO. And today she's going to tell us about a specific resource that they have developed in the past months, which is on gender and how to include women's voices in your organizations and campaigns. So Anaïs, thank you so much, and the floor is yours. You have a presentation. I will update it with the latest one that you sent me. In the end, we had a bit of an issue for that, but you just let me know next and I will change the slides. Floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup, Bibi, d'avoir proposé l'intervention de Coordination Sud. Donc rapidement, Coordination Sud, c'est la plateforme nationale des ONG françaises de solidarité internationale. Elle compte 184 membres. On va avoir 4 missions principales. La première, c'est l'appui et le renforcement des capacités des ONG françaises. La deuxième, c'est la promotion de positions communes pour un environnement favorable à l'action des organisations de la société civile. On a une troisième fonction qui est plutôt sur la veille et la prospective sur les enjeux de solidarité internationale. Et enfin, une dernière sur le milieu associatif, sur la structuration du milieu associatif français de la solidarité internationale. Alors, je pense que tu peux passer à la slide suivante, Bibi. On peut passer encore à la slide suivante. En fait, je vais faire en 2 parties. Je vais brièvement vous présenter le FRIO, qui est le Fonds de renforcement institutionnel et organisationnel, et qui a coordonné en fait cette capitalisation sur l'intégration du genre dans les ONG. Donc, c'est un fonds qui a 15 ans d'existence, qui est soutenu par l'Agence française de développement et qui consiste en fait à accompagner le montage de projets de renforcement structurel, donc sur une thématique précise, et qui va ensuite cofinancer l'intervention d'une consultance externe pour soutenir l'association pendant 1 an sur ce sujet. Donc tu peux passer à la slide suivante, s'il te plaît, Vivi. Donc, le FRIO fait aussi de la production de connaissances et de l'échange entre pairs, et c'est dans ce cadre que se trouve la capitalisation genre, qui tient en fait elle-même sa source d'un FRIO thématique genre qui était dédié, donc c'est une enveloppe budgétaire dédiée entre 2016 et 2018, voilà, qui permettait aux associations d'être renforcées sur le sujet. Donc, on a parmi les associations qui ont été soutenues 6 qui ont partagé leurs témoignages dans le cadre de cette étude, et puis on a 5 autres organisations qui ont également contribué, mais qui ont intégré l'approche genre dans leur organisation par elles-mêmes. Donc, ce qu'on peut retenir tout d'abord de cette capitalisation, c'est qu'elle va venir confirmer que intégrer le genre dans une organisation, ça vient réinterroger en fait plusieurs choses. Donc, je peux citer 5 points en particulier. Le premier, c'est que ça va venir réinterroger plutôt les modes de gouvernance, de fonctionnement. Le deuxième, c'est que ça vient questionner la vision, la mission et puis les stratégies qui sont déployées par les organisations, par les associations. Ça questionne aussi les relations de pouvoir dans les organisations. Et puis, ça réinterroge la cohérence en fait avec la mission et le changement sociétal que portent les organisations. En gros, quelle va être la légitimité de certaines associations à travailler sur les questions d'injustice basée sur le genre et soutenir d'autres partenaires sur ce sujet si en fait elles ne se remettent pas elles-mêmes en question et puis qu'elles n'analysent pas pardon, ce qui se passe dans leurs organisations. Et puis enfin, ça vient toucher aussi à la volonté politique. Donc en fait, on se rend compte que le genre, ce n'est pas une thématique isolée, ce n'est pas une thématique à part. Au contraire, il faut qu'on puisse travailler ça de manière transversale et qu'il inonde un peu tous les espaces d'une association, tous les niveaux hiérarchiques et les actions de l'association. Donc, globalement, en fait, intégrer une approche genre, ça suit un peu un cycle de projet. Donc, c'est un peu de cette manière qu'on a structuré ce document de capitalisation avec 4 étapes. La première qui consiste en fait à générer un déclic en interne et d'identifier en fait le besoin d'intégrer le genre dans son association. On a également une deuxième étape qui va plutôt être, qui va porter en fait sur le diagnostic, avec un diagnostic partagé en interne. La troisième étape qui consiste à définir une stratégie et la dernière qui est plutôt en lien avec l'accompagnement au changement et sa pérennisation. Donc peut-être que je peux partager aussi brièvement avec vous quelques éléments qui ressortent, qui ont été mis en avant par les associations pour pouvoir déployer justement une approche genre. Un premier élément, c'est d'avoir des espaces sûrs de discussion et de réflexion. Donc, en fait, on entend par espace sûr des espaces où, en fait, on peut parler sans jugement, l'expression est libre et, en gros, toutes les relations hiérarchiques n'entrent pas en jeu. Donc, si vous avez un directeur ou une directrice et une personne chargée de projet, tout le monde peut s'exprimer librement, on n'aura pas de retomber par la suite. On identifie également la création d'une référence genre, donc pour faciliter le processus, on se rend compte que souvent, en fait, ce sont des femmes, des jeunes, des femmes jeunes ou des personnes en fait qui sont elles-mêmes victimes des systèmes d'oppression qui portent en fait ce sujet dans les organisations, qui sont donc moteurs dans les associations. On peut avoir également des outils comme des modules de sensibilisation, des formations en interne, pour que les personnes se forment au fur et à mesure sur le sujet. On identifie également l'intervention d'une personne externe, en fait, d'une ressource externe qui va permettre de légitimer en fait ce processus d'intégration du genre parce que c'est un sujet qui est crispant, où il y a beaucoup de résistance, qui peut amener beaucoup de doutes parce qu'on se remet beaucoup en question. Ça questionne notre éducation, notre vision de la société. Donc, le fait d'avoir une personne externe, ça permet en fait de faire redescendre la pression et d'avoir moins de pression sur les personnes qui sont référentes ou référents genre dans l'organisation. On voit que les associations, elles ont également des fenêtres d'opportunité. Par exemple, des bailleurs qui vont demander à ce que l'intégration du genre soit intégrée dans un projet en particulier. Donc, ça va forcer l'association à s'emparer du sujet. Et on peut avoir également d'autres outils comme des communications internes qui marchent très bien dans les associations où en fait on va avoir par exemple des nouvelles d'un projet et puis on va décider de mettre en lumière dans ce projet un volet qui est plutôt sur les questions de genre. On peut avoir aussi des bulletins d'information sur le sujet. L'idée, c'est de pouvoir susciter la discussion en interne, des réflexions, susciter l'intérêt des différents collègues pour pouvoir par la suite porter le sujet en interne. Et donc, on a vu qu'il y a eu pas mal, avec MeToo, avec aussi des événements qui ont lieu dans le secteur de la solidarité internationale. On a eu des personnes qui se sont senties obligées en fait de se positionner sur le sujet qu'ils voulaient vraiment parler. Et donc, des bulletins d'information, ça permet justement à chacun et chacune de se sensibiliser. Donc voilà, c'est quelques éléments qui ont été partagés. Moi, je vous invite à lire la capitalisation pour en découvrir davantage. Voilà, j'espère que j'ai tenu mes 5 minutes.
Merci beaucoup Anaïs. Et vraiment, on pourra partager ça et on pourra mettre dans les chats les liens et on pourra aussi envoyer à tous les participants et tous ceux qui se sont enregistrés au workshop les liens vers la capitalisation avec un petit paragraphe. Je pense que ce serait très intéressant. Je vois qu'il y a une question de la part de Latifa Soufiani. Je ne sais pas si voilà, vous pouvez déjà poser votre question. On a en général aussi des questions à la fin du panel, mais si vous voulez, vous pouvez déjà poser la question et après on ira avec Eunice et Moussimi.
Merci, je vais être très rapide. Bonjour tout le monde. Concernant la présentation de notre collègue Friou sur la question de la capitalisation genre, dernièrement, nous avons eu l'occasion d'intégrer, peut-être de contribuer en tant qu'espace associatif à la mise en place d'un observatoire national sur la protection sociale. Et j'ai l'impression que même au niveau des réseaux de la société civile, la question genre s'intègre. On essaye de l'intégrer. Et ce n'est pas dans la réflexion de départ qu'on ait une institutionnalisation de l'égalité de genre dans le programme de la protection sociale. C'est-à-dire à chaque fois qu'on essaye d'intégrer la question du travail informel des femmes, la question d'insécurité des femmes, la question des discriminations de genre dans le travail, dans l'accès à la santé, l'accès aux différents services. C'est-à-dire cette question dont a parlé notre ami, cette question de capitalisation de genre est très importante, mais aussi nous devons avoir une large campagne de sensibilisation auprès des associations lorsqu'ils se réunissent en un réseau pour une question de plaidoyer. Il faut penser le genre dans la stratégie et non pas en mettant la stratégie, on essaie d'intégrer la question de genre dans notre stratégie d'intervention. Merci.
Oui, vraiment, merci beaucoup, Latifa. I don't know if anybody wants to answer already, or maybe we go to Eunice first, and then we all try to answer Latifa's question, which I think is very relevant about how come that is just integrated afterwards, the whole gender dimension, and we don't start with the gender dimension in a lot of the activities that we do within organizations. And I'm sure that Anais also will have the opportunity to answer Latifa. But first, also because of a lack, let's say, of time, let's start with Eunice Musime. Thank you so much for being here. You're here from Akina Mamawa, Africa, and you're a feminist, a human rights activist, and you're also an author. So I would like for you, please, to tell us about your experience and to tell us how we can really integrate gender justice and this different viewpoint to what we do in civil society organizations. Thank you so much, Eunice.
Thank you so much, Bibi. Thank you so much for us for organizing this forum. It's quite humbling to be part of this conversation, and I have already learned a lot. Lots of reflections already have been shared. I just thought that I would share for my 10 minutes a study that was done by Akina Mamawa Africa on public perceptions on women and youth leadership. And the study was done with a focus on Uganda. So the reason why the study was done was really to generate knowledge on the way the media interacts with women and youth leaders, and to see areas of progress and areas that are not as enabling, and see what else can be done. So the findings of the study are that the media landscape in Uganda is diverse, but is rapidly changing because of new media, so such as social media, the internet, and other media that then interact with the traditional media to change the landscape. So for a country like Uganda, radio is the most popular medium. It's more popular than TV, mainly because not many citizens can afford television sets. So what is more accessible is radio. But because of new media, internet, social media, it's slowly coming to take over, radio being most popular. We also found that while Uganda has an extensive supportive legal and policy framework facilitating the number of women and youth participating in leadership and decision-making, the frameworks have not been well translated into practice. So you have the legal and policy frameworks, but that doesn't mean that the situation on the ground has been addressed. So patriarchal norms, discriminatory social norms continue to reinforce the negative portrayal of women and youth. So it's easy to find that women and youth are more portrayed as weaker. They are portrayed maybe based on gender stereotypes, how they dress, how they show up, how they voice their concerns, and less on the content that they present in different spaces. Then we also found that editorial policies and guidelines as well seem equitable and inclusive, but the practice remains far from what has been put in these policies and guidelines. And that offers a space for sharing. And then we noted that social perceptions about women and youth leaders are reflective of a patriarchal society, and they continue to influence how the media portrays women and youth in leadership. And so to a great extent, the portrayal of women and youth is not that enabling. And so there's need to seek strategies that can address those social perceptions. Then we found that media portrayal of female youth particularly is more negative than male youth, even among that cohort of youth. So being able to disaggregate data regarding female youth and male youth. So male youth are more positively portrayed in the media as leaders, unlike their counterparts, female youth. And so it's important that we address the issues that emerge. So nuances such as their appearance, their sense of fashion, their titles, so they are referred to as mothers or wives or girls, and less really in their capacities as leaders. So we found as well that cyberbullying remains rife, and that constrains women in leadership, women and youth on social media spaces. So the physical violence is translated into online violence. And so that also disenables women and youth from continuous engagement in online spaces. So those were our findings, and a key among the recommendations that we had was, of course, digital literacy, and also continuing to train women and youth so that they can be able to better engage in the different spaces and also articulate themselves in the different media and public platforms. We also found that it's important to continuously work with government agencies to translate the existing legal and policy frameworks into actual practices that promote women and youth engagement in public spheres. We also recommended that we need to encourage women and youth to develop and use their own platforms, which they have a bit more of control. So for example, platforms like YouTube, vlogs, written blogs, podcasts, channels which they can control the messaging and the dissemination of critical issues that they would want to put out there into the public. We also looked at some of the practical things that can be done, profiling of women and youth leaders, so that media is aware of different visibilizing, like what the previous speaker has spoken about, so that media is aware of the expertise that is resident in a wide range of women and youth, so that they are not always speaking on the same speakers. And then finally, of course, continue to challenge social and cultural norms and attitudes that regarding gender perceptions of women and youth, that translates then into the way they are portrayed by the media and also by the public ultimately. So basically, that's what I thought I could share with us this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eunice. And is this report online, or is it open for people to, then I think that would be wonderful to share it with the participants as well as in the follow-up email. I think it was very nice to hear also this idea of having more control on the platforms where women and youth are represented. I think that's also a very relevant recommendation. And I think it fits very well also with our next speaker, which is Rose Effernan. Thank you so much for being here as well. And so you're from WEFCF, and you're also a gender consultant. And today you will be presenting a report also on the intersection between gender, climate justice, and a lot more, I suppose. So before we open the floor up for questions for our speakers in the second panel, Rose, please, the floor is yours. Let me know if you want to share something or if I need to make you co-host. Thank you.
Yeah, could you make me a co-host quickly? Thank you. And yeah, thank you, Bibi, and thanks to all our speakers today. This has been really helpful and engaging, and so have the questions as well. I think especially this question about the importance of having gender when we talk about climate justice. Am I able to? Yeah. So I just wanted to quickly share something called Climate Justice Toolkit for Youth that we have developed at Women Engaged for a Common Future. So everything we do at WECF is about the connection between climate justice and feminism. And that was the idea with this toolkit, with the specific aim of engaging young people in the connection between the two. So we did this as part of the Spark project, which was with some of our other partner organizations in Europe. And I just wanted to briefly go through some of the stuff that you can find in it, and then I'll share a link to it in the chat afterwards. And just so you know, it has also been translated into Spanish, French, Portuguese, Dutch. I think that might be it. So I can send that in the chat and you can see all the different translations for whatever language you prefer to read in. But our rationale with this was that we wanted to get young people involved in the Conference of the Parties just before COP27 last year. And we know that the policy space, especially at this UN level, can be quite daunting for young people who want to get involved. And we also knew that the link between these climate issues and feminism or gender justice are sometimes not very obvious. And so this toolkit is really aimed towards youth who, for example, might be involved in climate change activism, or they might be involved in feminist activism, but maybe they've not made the connection between the two yet. So it starts off with some introductions and explanation of key terms and theories, because one of the parts that I think is most daunting when you get engaged in advocacy is a lot of the jargon, like the words that you don't really know how to, like you might not feel comfortable using all of them. And then the first section, they're sort of framed like questions. So I care about climate change and or feminism. How do they link together? And here we have different ways that the two topics can be connected that you might not have thought about. The next section is how can I turn theory into advocacy? So this is once you have your like knowledge of gender justice and climate activism, how you might turn this into actual action. And this links quite well, I think, with Karolina's presentation that they gave earlier. So we have some methods on like finding your fellow activists and how you engage in advocacy. We also have existing organizations, and I think it's important to note here that the toolkit was funded by an EU project, and so it's quite focused on Europe as a region, but we do have some discussions of other regions, and the hope is that a lot of this stuff you could use the different tools regardless of where you're based. And the final section is, so if you have some of these ideas about the issues that you want to work on and you've found some people that you maybe want to engage with, how you can then influence political processes. And this part is really important. I think, I know, like for myself as a young woman, when I first started getting engaged in advocacy and activism, I found it really daunting and a bit scary, because it seems like everybody knows all of these things and they know how to get involved, and you sometimes feel as if it's quite difficult to, you know, participate in these different spaces with the UN, for example. So this toolkit is really geared towards COP27. So it has different levels at which you can participate and ways that you can engage with the COP itself, as well as explaining like how the COP works and the different aspects of it that you might need to be aware of as a young activist. And we also have some additional sources at the end here. So alongside this, I just want to briefly mention as well, we've developed an activity book, which is a bit more, so this one's a bit more giving you information. And we also have an activity book that's a bit more practical. So that's more like exercises where you reflect on different things that you would want to change and different issues that you care about. So this is translated into multiple languages. The activity kit is only in English, I think, but I will put the links to both of them in the chat. And I'll also put my email if anyone wants to get in touch with me about anything that I've shared. And yeah, I'm looking forward to any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you so much. Also, the idea of the activity book is great, you know, because it's true that we have a lot of theory, but the fact that you also have a practical side is really nice. So we have a couple of minutes for questions. I don't know if anybody has any questions, any additional ones or any comments, or if anybody already wants to answer what Latifa was mentioning about the fact of, you know, the frustration maybe in the fact that gender is just integrated rather than taught from the start. And then also Nana had a question before about rural youth and rural women, and Andy partly answered that, but I don't know if anybody has any additional questions or comments they want to make. We have a couple of minutes before the end of the call. You know, we can take a couple of minutes of silence for people to think as well, and wait a little bit. And if anybody has any questions, you can just raise your hand, or any of the speakers or anybody wants to have some final words as well, or comments. I think Eunice, I see that you raise your hand, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My comments and question goes to Latifa. I know that you've said you're going to share the toolkit. I just wondered whether you also mapped the spaces that are important for young people to consider in terms of advocacy and policy engagement regarding climate change and gender justice. It would be critical. Then also to say that as a Kina Mama Africa, we also work on climate justice as one of the issues that we focus on. And we found that having toolkits is important for ensuring not just youth, but also women are able to be part of these conversations that are important and not be left behind. Thank you very much.
I think, Rose, the question is for you, I think.
Yeah, so we did do some mapping of the different policy areas, but we didn't want to overcomplicate it with like the, because the thing we're doing is sort of geared towards people that maybe don't have a full understanding of all the different aspects of what's going on. So I think, you know, we have some explanations of different ways that women are disproportionately impacted by climate change, and that's the key starting point that we want to focus on. And then from there, we move into the different policy areas, but we're really focusing on these international spaces. So the COP as like the main climate one, and then the other one we focus on is the Commission on the Status of Women as well, as the other key space where we could have a intersection between these two ideas.
Nice. And Nana, vous avez une dernière question aujourd'hui? Nana, je ne sais pas si vous nous entendez.
Ok.
Ah oui, voilà, parfait.
Merci d'avoir donné cette opportunité. En fait, moi, ce n'est pas une question, mais c'est une recommandation. Est-ce qu'aujourd'hui, au niveau de Forus, on ne peut pas faire une capitalisation de tous ces outils parce qu'il y a beaucoup d'outils que je vois, chaque organisation a un outil. Pourquoi ne pas jumeler tout ça pour faire un seul outil de travail pour la société civile?
As next steps, we have a new, workshop that will be coming up, and in a couple of months. For the thematic, we have sent you all, and we will send it again as well, a second survey where you can tell us what are the themes that interest you the most for the next occasion. So we have themes such as artificial intelligence and the metaverse for civil society organizations. Again, we have themes about social media. So there is a lot that Forus members have expressed that they would like to explore together with other members, with experts, with people, communication experts, let's say. So please let us know when you have time, give us ideas. And of course, if you want to host a ComsForUs workshop, you're more than welcome to do that. This is an open space. So if you want to have be the host for the next one, please just get in touch either with myself or with Clarisse. Voila, I think that this is it. And you will receive an email with all the resources and the discussions from today, and also with the recording of the workshop. And yeah, we will give you more details about the next workshop soon. So last but not least, a big, huge thank you to all our interpreters. I'm smiling because it's the first time that we're not 1,000 minutes late, but our interpreters are amazing. We have Maribel, we have Alvaro, we have Roberto, we have Guillermo today, and they always really help us to communicate across borders. So thank you so much. You're really part of the family. And of course, thank you so much to all the speakers today, all the ones who participated and who were here with us. It's always great to do these things together. And yeah, and that's it, I think, from Clarisse and myself. Clarisse, you want to say something today?
No, Vivi, just thank you to everybody who participated. Thank you to those who took out a minute to fill a micro survey. If you still haven't done so, the links are still in the chat. We will so much love to hear from you, so we know how to make our work better and more enjoyable for you as well. And of course, we hope very much to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde pour les idées, pour tout le temps que vous avez partagé avec nous. Et voilà, on se tient en contact. Quedamos en contacto. Merci, merci. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias a todos y
Au revoir
todas.
à toutes et tous.
Ciao ragazzi, ciao ciao.